Welcome to FinScale, a podcast created by Solen Niederkorn, shedding light on innovation in finance, banking, and insurance.
Can diversity give rise to more unicorns? Johan Brenner, General Partner at Creandum.
If we're going to be the best VC in the world or in Europe and provide the best returns for our LPs, which is the ultimate goal, we're going to miss out of half the opportunities if we're not focusing on diversity. And we won't be competitive down the line and provide the best returns to our LPs if we not do that. So it was actually driven very much by common sense. We're not doing enough in this area. We need to be able to, we want to be a long-term player. We want to have the returns that our LPs expect from us. And therefore, we have to focus on diversity.
I'm sure you know by now how much I enjoy interviewing the VC community. They are incredibly nimble and have a strong entrepreneurial spirit that sets them apart. For this episode, I had the unique pleasure of chatting with Johan, who is one of Europe's most renowned names in venture capital investment. Johan has achieved incredible success in the world of venture capital and entrepreneurship, and now is here to tell us about all his journey with Creandum. As diversity is a top priority for me and my podcast, I had to discuss this with Johan. We delve into the lofty diversity goals that his venture capital firm has set, particularly in relation to women and their teams and investments. Johan tells us about the implementation of their diversity index, offers a wealth of relevant data, and provides us with tangible results to date. When we hear that almost 25% of the companies Creandum invests in now have at least 50% female co-founders or a female CEO, it encourages such initiative since gender equality leads to better returns. We couldn't pass up these VC's flagship investments in fintechs such as Swan and Trade Republic. Out of the 120 companies that Creandum supports, it's no surprise that several have become unicorns. We discuss their unique selling proposition as well as the positioning of the manager in the European ecosystem. Enjoy listening! Hi, everybody. Hi, Johan.
Hi, Solen. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for joining FinScale. Johan, you're managing partner at Creandum and you're one of Europe's most experienced venture capital investor. Can I ask you to share a bit of your professional past and explain us where you come from?
Yeah, great. Well, nice to be here, Solen. I've enjoyed your podcast, and I'm honored that I can be part of this one as well. So great. Well, I'm Johan Brenner. I'm a general partner, one of 5 general partners at Creandum. I'm based in Stockholm, but we have pan-European offices. We'll talk about that later. I've been with Creandum for more than 10 years, but I actually started my career as one did at that time in the 80s in a large company called ABB. And I spent 10 years with ABB in Kinnevik learning, how enterprises work. And I soon understood that I'm not going to be a big company executive. I'd rather start my own company. So after 10 years there, I became an entrepreneur. And my first startup was one of the first online investing platform that I eventually sold to E-Trade in the US. But I did a lot of angel investing and stuff like that as well. I was chairman of Jobline, which was one of the first job boards that we sold to Monster in the US, investor in Tradera that became the eBay of the Nordics, and some of the early sort of payment platform, one called Dibs, which was a payment service provider. So at the early stage, I sort of dipped my toes into fintech, in those areas that was sort of early internet, either to help you pay online with, e-commerce starting, or investing online, which was kind of natural. Why should you call your broker if you can just invest yourself online? So that was like some years of entrepreneurship around the sort of millennium shift. And then I was recruited to Benchmark Europe, which was a sister fund of Benchmark in the US that started 2000. So I started that 2004, and then eventually it changed name and separated from the US partnership to Balderton Capital. Remained with them as a general partner for 5 years, and then I joined Creandum as I'm here today. So basically, 10 years of sort of operating in big companies. Knew I didn't want to become a big company executive. Started my own company became an investor and have been investing for the past 20 years professionally at VCs.
Impressive. Thank you very much, Johan. So I wanted to start with this because I find it very, very interesting. And no matter how you slice it, diverse teams really outperform homogeneous teams. And the number back this up. And teams that are diverse by gender and ethnicity generate 30% higher multiples compared to homogeneous teams. And at Creandum, you took very strong commitments around diversity. Would be interesting to start with that and that you explain to us, except for obvious reasons of governance and diversity, which position did you take and why did you take those strong positions at Creandum?
Well, so then first of all, it's generally known that diverse team perform better. So, we just looked at ourselves and said, if we're going to be the best VC in the world or in Europe and provide the best returns for our LPs, which is the ultimate goal, we're going to miss out of half the opportunities if we're not focusing on diversity. And we won't be competitive down the line and provide the best returns to our LPs if we not do that. So it was actually driven very much by common sense. We're not doing enough in this area. We need to be able to we want to be a long-term player. We want to have the returns that our LPs expect from us, and therefore we have to focus on diversity. And when you focus on diversity, you have to do a lot of stuff. It takes time, and it's not an easy path. We have to look at ourselves as a firm. What are we doing in this area? We have to look at what our portfolio companies are doing, and we have to be an active voice in this area outside. So that's what we've been trying to do.
And you appointed your first female partner last year, but you announced that you had a target of making the team gender equal within 2 fund cycles. I just mentioned an article that I read in Sifted. What does it mean concretely for you? Because it's a strong commitment.
Yeah, we are, in terms of our total, we measure our diversity in terms of, I think, 3 dimensions. Where are we in the total firm, and where are we with check writers, and where are we with a partnership? And as a whole firm, we are quite diverse. We look at it 60-40 in either direction. That's our goal. When we look at the investment team, we are like 25% female versus a male. And in the partnerships, there's only 1 female out of 8. So we still have a lot of work. And we set ourselves, let's make sure we have the 60-40 split on all dimensions. But given that this is sort of your partners in this firm, you leave, some join, but it's sort of a lot of inertia in that. We need to give ourselves a little bit leeway, but have a sharp target of getting full diversity across all dimensions. And that's what we gave ourselves, 2 fund cycles.
But you have taken concrete actions to make it happen. And I've digged into your website and I've seen marvelous treasures, like you have a diversity, equity and inclusion knowledge bank for investors and also for tracking. Can you explain to us, to the audience, what it really is? I will also share the links on my newsletter.
Yeah, please do. We do a couple of things. First of all, we have our own diversity, equality, and inclusion policy, which says, among other things, that in the hiring process, in the final round, we should have 50% of the candidates from underrepresented gender or origin, and we measure inclusion across our own firm, twice per year. We have pretty good parental leave policy, 9 months of 100% pay for parental leave, and sort of that's in that direction to make sure we can cater for diversity. And we have twice a year in inclusion and unconscious bias training across the entire team. So we work a lot with our own processes and knowledge in this area. And then we have the what's called the Creandum Diversity Index. I can come back to that a little bit, but that measures in our portfolio where we are standing in terms of diversity across our portfolio. And then, of course, as you mentioned, we have this link or this database or knowledge bank about the best practices of diversity and inclusion. And I think I encourage everybody to check that out. Is perhaps and current. I would love to hear suggestions, but we're trying to sort of gather there the best practices in this area and help our peer investors and particularly our portfolio companies to conduct well in this area. So that's the purpose of that. And in our diversity index, we've done this since 2018. And we measure across gender. We could do, of course, other ethnic diversity, but we focus on gender because that's where data is sort of easiest for us to focus on. we measure that across, 4 dimensions. One is across the entire portfolio, and then secondly, across the management team, and thirdly, on the board, what the diversity is there as well. And then we ask about compensation and pay gap across the gender. So that's what we do. We get very interesting results. And what we can say is, in terms of this diversity index, is that if you have the key driver here is to have diversity in the management team, not the board. And if you have a diverse management team, then you will manage better diversity across the organization.
And what is interesting is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll also make sure that with the new fund that you have launched recently, at least 10 out of 40 companies that you will invest in will have at least 50% female co-founders or a female CEO. That is correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have that target, and we're quite close. Actually, we're at the present fund, we are at 22%. So specifically, the target was 25% of the first check shall go in diverse teams, and diverse teams means at least one female as a CEO or in the founder team, and that's the target. And I think in the last fund we had 19%, and currently we're halfway through our fund 6. And we're at 22%. So I mean, we're on track. We're not there, but we're on track.
Congratulations. And is there any specific pressure from the Sweden government or from the ecosystem in Sweden?
I think what's driving us is more common sense and, be the best VC and provide the best returns. And that's what's driving us. Of course, Sweden has been a long promoter in gender equality. But mind you, I mean, we have 3 equal offices in Berlin and London and Stockholm with the same kind of investment team and size. So and we invest, 75% of our investment comes outside Sweden. So I mean, yes, maybe our heritage comes from here, and maybe there is kind of in our culture and drive more gender equality, but I wouldn't say that's what's driving us really here.
Okay.
The whole it's kind of makes sense, right? If we believe that gender equality provides better returns, we must be able to attract, help the ecosystem to put forward more role models in the female area. And we need to be better diverse ourselves. Otherwise, we will not spot and attract the, diverse founder team. So it all comes together. It's easy for us. But the work takes time and needs to be focused on all dimensions.
Thank you very much for your transparency, Johan. So when I discussed with Simon Schminke a few months ago, I was asking him who within Creandum is the one in fintech within the partners, and he said that you were the one. So let's talk about fintech, and within all the different verticals in fintech, which one is currently the most appealing in your opinion?
Well, it's interesting with fintech. It's such $1 trillion industry, and it's been since in the last as I've invested in the last over 20 years, it's continuing to evolve, and there's always innovation, and it's such a big part of the market. So it's a never-ending source of opportunities. I think there's still so many exciting areas, and I'm now on the board, we can talk about that later, of Trade Republic, which is one of the largest investing platforms in Europe. But my first investment and my company that I started was an online trading firm 22 years ago. So, and it's still an area which is exciting to invest in. So over time, all areas in fintech, as well as other areas, will be reinvented. Better consumer propositions, better data access, and again, things will happen regulatory and ideas wise that will innovate further. But anyway, I think there are 3 areas which we are sort of like at the moment, but I wouldn't say that's exhausting. One is embedded finance. So basically that every company will become sort of a fintech company and offering. We can talk about that a little bit. The next is what we look at a lot as is still the B2B area, both in payments and finance. There's still things happening there. And then there's sort of interesting, what's really happening recently with ChatGPT and large language models, what's going to happen there, and how is that going to revolutionize the fintech world? So, that's just a few examples of that. But let's talk about embedded finance maybe a little bit. And so this has been making for the last years, and we see more and more happening in Europe. And what's happening is that these different fintech services are becoming more and more granular and specialized. And we see incumbents like Wise, Adyen, and Stripe that previously had direct services are sort of offering embedded products into their initial products. So what's basically happening is helping non-fintech companies to attach payment, IBAN, wallets, et cetera, financing in the sort of workflow and in the consumer flow, enabling the companies to focus on the end user value proposition. We have companies in this area called Swan, which is banking as a service. Actually, it's a French one, which we're very, very proud of. We can talk about that later.
I had Nicolas as guest on my podcast 2 years ago. Nicolas Benali.
Great. They're fantastic. The two Nicolas and Mathieu, we're very proud to be part of that investment. They're doing a fantastic job. I think that's a very typical sort of embedded finance play and banking as a service, offering a whole bouquet of services. Topi, which is basically offer B2B renting in the workflow of purchasing hardware. It's a German company. Billy, buy now, pay later. Lemon Markets is, an API for investing in stock trading. And so that we have a number of investors in this space, but it's happening a lot more in this area in various sort of consumer plays offering embedded services in the workflow. And I think there's still an exciting area.
Clearly. If we focus now on Creandum, can you maybe give us a few figures like your presence? You were talking about Berlin and the number of funds you have, the number of employees within Creandum. And what is interesting also is what's your value proposition?
Good. That's great. So let's talk about that. So Creandum has its 20-year anniversary this year. So we've been around for a while. But we are basically early stage investors. We invest, what that means is Series C and Series A round. We invest across Europe as well as outside Europe in certain verticals that we love. We've done stuff outside Europe in food and fintech and other areas. And sometimes we invest later than A in what we call sort of generational companies. If we see a company that's fantastic and that we need to be in, we can also do later rounds. But I mean, we're trying to stick to sort of early stage, which is in a sense mean a check size from 1 to 20 million euros at first instance. And we have two vehicles to invest. One is our main vehicle, which is a 500 million fund where we invest in seed and A and can follow on the companies. And then we have a 200 million, what we call select fund, which can invest in Series C and later. So basically, we can support the company from seed or pre-seed to IPO in terms of funding. And that's what we do. We're very long-term investors, and we back the companies over 10, 12 years. And our funds are often 15, 20 years long to make sure that we can sort of help support the companies as long as they take the build to success. And we are in our sixth fund. So we managed now soon to about 2 billion euros. We're industry agnostic. I mean, we do B2C and B2B. What really excites us is to, find great and back bold, great teams, doing very interesting things. I mean, we're first investors in Spotify, for instance. I don't think if we would have focused as a theme on music, we wouldn't, there wasn't really at that time. And music, we would never, focus on something. We would never done it. We need to be open-minded and back, great teams that are doing really innovative stuff. And I think being industry agnostic, although we have done a lot in music and digital health and fintech, etc. over the years, makes us make sure that we are open for new ideas and not be so focused. So we have not started a crypto fund. And we're not going to start the ChatGPT fund either. We are interested in the area and we believe it's an important play, but we want to invest in businesses that sort of use these technologies to win, and rather than just have specific areas of things to invest in. Anyway, we backed around 120 companies. We've been fairly successful. I think we 1 out of 7 or 1 out of 6 of our investments becomes unicorns. And so that's quite a good ratio.
Well done.
And then I think our funds speak for itself. They're one of the best performing funds. So our LPs are happy. And we are happy with our LPs. We have, pension funds and universities and endowments across the world. which means that most of them are non-profit. They go back to pensions and education and things like that, which I think is fantastic for as you build companies and make returns, that most of these returns come back to the society. So that we're proud of as well. And then we are not so large. We have 35 employees across the 4 offices. So we call them hubs, by the way, because they're like very nice offices, but they are sort of the starting point to do things across Europe.
Where are they located?
Stockholm, London, Berlin, and San Francisco.
Okay.
And then the team at 35 is, of course, investors, of across those geographies. And then we have operating staff. And then we have, of course, as many funds do, we have, support people in talent. So helping our portfolio companies which is the most important thing they do, basically recruit the best people in the world to add on to their portfolio companies. Marketing support. We have people, experts in product and design, which are crucial things, we believe, that to help the companies from the early stages to build great products that people love. So across Europe, lean team, spread out over 3, 4. And then we have an office in San Francisco, as I said, so 4 offices, and then supporting staff. And then, we have, we've been, some of the companies, Spotify I mentioned, Klarna, Bolt, Factorial, Trade Republic, Pleo, etc. have been some of our companies and the founders that we back. Should we talk a little bit about value proposition and Creandum?
Yes, of course.
May? Well, I think this is an interesting question, because all the top VCs in Europe and Creandum as well, we offer a product which is money and support. And I think in the end of the day, what entrepreneurs are looking for is the money, yes, support, and the long-term partner, and a brand that can help them, recruit the best people afterwards, and support to recruit the best people, post-investment, and build the companies, get follow-on funding, etc., etc. So the product is kind of equal, if you're honest, among these the best Vs. But I think what sort of makes us come apart is, I think, apart from the results that speak for ourselves, the number of unicorns we have created and the family of unicorns that we have, and the family of entrepreneurs across Europe that can support other new entrepreneurs. I think the offices that we have are kind of unique. We're having the pan-European offices, not one office, but at early stage, we think it's remote is okay, but it's also really important to be close to the entrepreneur. So I think that's important. We talked about diversity. I think we're steadily getting to be a diverse background, not only gender, but we have team members, a lot of them with operating and entrepreneurial experience that understands the challenges of entrepreneurs when they build companies. And then I think what I think stakes. If you talk to our entrepreneurs that we backed, they will, I think most of them, if not always, saying that we are really a long-term partner that knows that it takes time. We're in early, we support them throughout their journey, and we're in for when the tide is high and the tide is low. And you know how it is, Len, that creating and starting a company is not always high. There are some low points in that as well. Yes. So I think we're there for the backing, attracts great entrepreneurs to talk to Creandum over the years.
Thank you very much. Question I had, did you develop internal AI solutions? You talked about ChatGPT to enable you to ping and get in touch with very early stage companies.
Yeah, we don't use ChatGPT, yes, but maybe...
I can imagine.
Maybe I'll try it, but I tried actually the other day to use and maybe do a short form description of one of my portfolio companies to an LP report. It worked quite well. It did a better job actually than my first try. But yes, we are. I think this is hygiene today to have sort of a product to. What we do is, for instance, make sure that we can stay alert when great founders that we know are great people from our portfolio companies are starting something new, and follow the development of their startup. So we make sure that we are following people that we respect and can do great things going forward. We also have, ways of sort of understanding which companies get traction, etc. And this can be developed even further to help also existing portfolio companies, monitor the performance, etc. But of course, we do that as well. But I think, and this is what many VCs do today, but I think that's really important. But at the end of the day, it's about the best team, and I think no, technology or algorithm can beat meeting individuals, entrepreneurs physically, etc., and know when to back them. But of course, we have a number of tech supporting tools to make sure that we have early signs of great things happening.
Thank you. You said a few, you mentioned twice Trade Republic, Swan and Pleo, but could we focus maybe on Trade Republic, because I didn't have the chance to have that company on my podcast yet, and explain to us why you decided to invest and how the process happened, and why do you continue supporting them?
Well, this was 2019, and I had invested, as you know, 20 years ago in a more simpler platform at that time, and it wasn't exactly the area that we were looking for, but a colleague of mine had found the company. It was very early stage. They had just launched in Germany, and we looked at the opportunity. And at first, we said, well, there are already other players in the market. There's Robinhood maybe coming to Europe, etc. So maybe should we really invest in this opportunity? But then when we looked closer at the opportunity, we saw a huge pension savings gap that needs to be solved. We need to sort of democratize savings to the continental Europe. I mean, there is a lot happening in the UK, and Sweden has a large percentage of individual savings in equity and equity-relating savings, which is the best way to sort of, save for your pension. Rather than putting in an interest rate or under your mattress, you need to sort of be long-term in the equity market. We saw that in continental Europe, the percentage of people saving for their pension themselves or in equity is low, but the new millennial people are coming on growing up, forming family and building their wealth. They need a place to save. So we saw that, okay, maybe this is an opportunity. And then we met the team and saw the product, and it was the most beautiful product we've seen. It was commission-free, so it was low cost. It had the broadest set of ETFs and stocks and derivatives and even crypto to invest in. And not only a trading platform, but also long-term savings platform and savings plans. And then we met the team. It was Christian and Thomas just had been building this for 3 years. The stack, everything from trading backend, the BaFin license, etc., was very well done and thought through. It's financial services and it's about savings. It has to be correct. It has to be trustworthy. It has to be built from the bottom up. And so we just saw that this can happen. There's a seismic shift happen. The team is the right thing to back. So we led the Series A in 2019, and it's just been an amazing. Today they're in 17 European countries. They have billions in AUM, over double digit. I can't say the exact figure, but over double digit AUM, and we've raised over 500 million. Over later rounds, and we have Accel Founders Fund, Sequoia, and others now as an investor. And that valuation was at over 4 billion. So it's been a tremendous success. And recently we offered a 2% interest rate on deposits, and billions have already flown into Trade Republic. So we're really trying to be on the investor side, offering great product at a great price and enable you to save and trade for the long term.
Excellent. Thank you very much. One last question before we close the discussion. It's the kind of relationship you have with Germany, France, UK ecosystems from Sweden. Yeah, I mean, as I said, we have, we originated 20 years ago with mostly investment in Sweden, but nowadays 75-80% are really outside Sweden, and we sort of have equal offices, as I said, in Stockholm, London, and Berlin. But we started our first office outside the Nordics was in Berlin, and we started 6-7 years ago, and we've been very active. And I think we are extremely proud of
our sort of German portfolio, Trade Republic, TaxFix, Billy, Topi, Passion Fruit, and others. In the UK, we've had sort of very strong historic investments in Depop, Tide, Argent, and others. And I have a heritage from the London market, and now since a year and a half we have a very strong team on the ground, and so we're very active in this system. And it's of course important because UK is still almost half of the venture funding goes into the UK, and half of the unicorns are created in the UK, and then France, which is important. 15 to 20% of all funding goes into France, and we love France. We haven't done that much. We have huge respect for the market. We have Swan, of course, that we're proud of. Cluster is another investment that we made. But I mean, France has been extremely successful over the past 10 years, but specifically in fintech, as you know, with Konto, Payfit, Spendesk, Lydia, etc., and a lot of other companies. So this is an area we're going to spend a lot more time in, and I think, especially in fintech, but other areas, we're excited about being more active in France. But that again, I mean, we invest across the whole Europe. We have 2 investments in Budapest. So I mean, it's not only these offices, but we are actually looking in all corners of Europe for great teams.
Pan-European VC.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what are your next steps at Creandum?
Well, we're not gonna start a new fund. We're going to take the time to sort of celebrate the 20-year this year. I think that's interesting because 20 years of European VC is interesting. I think 20 years ago was just after the millennial crash, basically, and there was very little VC in Europe. But since then, European VC has exploded and caught up with the US. So I think there, it's a lot of reflection points over the past 20 years. And it's exciting to be here now as everything that's happening. You think innovation stops, but it never ends, and the opportunity is there. So I mean, we're going to take this year to celebrate that and make sure that we sort of reflect on what we learned, etc. And then we're going to raise our Fund 7, maybe not next year, but and we're going to pretty much, I think, stay along the same strategy, which means. And we're kind of boring, we stick with our strategy because I think that's has been successful so far. Same fund size, trying to sort of, it's important that in the last round of funding, we could have raised, twice as much, but we also have huge respect. With more money, you do larger rounds and later rounds, and returns will be different. I think we're trying to stay, focused on having the right fund size and
to be consistent.
And sort of be focused on an early stage, and then being industry agnostic. So no crypto fund, but absolutely a new fund.
Thank you very much, Johan. Do you have a book recommendation for us?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. My last one was a Swedish one, but I was thinking about the last sort of maybe for the general public interesting one, and the one I think I would recommend is a book by Tony Fadell, which is called Build. And Tony Fadell is kind of an interesting person. He co-created the iPod and iPhone at Apple, and then founded Nest, which is the intelligent thermostat. And this book is kind of interesting because it's sort of a self-styled mentor in a box. It's a whole gathering of business advice about getting a job and managing a team and telling your story around your product and being a successful CEO that he was. And he's really much pushing for a mentor that is a must-have to sort of anyone who aspires to start or run a business. And it's really motivating as sort of as a company builder, also for Creandum, personally Creandum, and for an entrepreneur. And there's how much fun it is to build a physical product, not only a digital product, for that people actually buy. So focus on something that people are worth making, and focus on excellence.
Thank you very much, Johan. That was very, very insightful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for listening and sharing this moment with us. Don't hesitate to contact me on Twitter or LinkedIn to share your comments and reactions. You can also rate this episode on your favorite podcast platform. See you soon.